Hello folks, how are you? I just finished editing my previous video, which I started about a month ago, and I just now finished. I have a couple more videos that are started, and I just dropped some of them. I started more than half a year ago. I guess it turns out that while I enjoy the filming process, I'm not as crazy about the editing process. Like, I can enjoy certain parts of it, but especially like the finishing parts where the whole thing comes together and you add some finishing touches like music and maybe some graphics or whatever, color grading if I'm bothered about that. I just don't love that so much. So that's where a lot of videos just kind of go to die. So I wanted to, I guess, start another one. Let's see how long that one takes to finish. And I wanted to make an update on how this last month has been. So, as I mentioned in the previous one, towards the end of May, or maybe it was the middle to end of May, I got accepted to this art market cooperative, which is really kind of changing my life right now. This is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. In fact, I did have my own individual permission to sell in the city. However, it had a very important limitation that even though there were a lot of areas that were open to me, the most important areas where I think it's the most worth standing, they were off limits because there are special areas where special permissions and rules apply. But however, in this market situation, they do have permission for one of these special areas. Well, they are allowed several different places depending on the dates. We have a whole list of dates and spots where we have a permission to be. It's quite strict, but also not that much. And another huge positive, I think, of being part of this market is that you're not standing there alone. It is kind of a market, which helps a lot more with passers-by to actually notice you and stop and look at your things. I think that if I'm doing it individually, I will probably have a lot less people stop by because you're just standing there alone as a weird rando and just everyone ignores you. I think the bigger the market, the more people you are together, the bigger chance you have for people to stop by and for you to get noticed. So it's important from that point of view, from like getting potential customers. But also it feels a lot better to not be standing there alone. You have company, you have people to talk to or not to talk to, depending on how you feel that day. You can exchange experience, you can see how the others are doing. I would say in my experience so far, it tends to be very comparable. Like if one person is doing good, most people are probably doing good, and if it's slow for everyone. So you can kind of feel a bit more like, I don't know, part of something. And also like when it's not going so well, it's not necessarily because you're doing something wrong. It's just I guess people are not in buying mood that day. It's also fun to see what everyone else are doing, and I've been enjoying it a lot. And to be honest with you, this year I was the closest I've ever been to giving up. Especially the start of the year was very dark and difficult for me. One part of it was just winter, which I'm not taking very well. Another part was just the background state of the world that is not making me very happy. General trends in my industry, the general state of the economy or whatever. Other changes, for example, to the postal system where I live, which affect my online shop. This year, I've barely had any sales in my own online shop, which is very different from the past 5 years or so that it has existed, I've never done amazingly well in my online shop. I've never had like daily sales, but I've never had months where I didn't have any sales at all, which has happened this year for first time. So I needed something to change. Originally, my plan was to have a part-time job again and to use that for my main support and to see what I do with my business around that. But I kept failing at that. I was just not able to get a part-time job or a full-time job or whatever kind of job. I came close to it a few times. Yeah, that didn't work out. So now with this market, I have finally seen some kind of alternative and some kind of way for things to kind of work out. Although obviously it's a insecure situation because it is a lot of work and it doesn't always pay off. Sometimes there are days where you go through all this trouble to drag all this stuff out there. You stand there for hours and hours and you barely make any sales. Sometimes the weather is just bad, so the market just doesn't happen. It rains all day and it's windy all day and you just know that it's not worth it. Like you can't be out there. And also it's not a all year solution. It covers most of the year, but again, considering how dependent it is on the weather, if it is so difficult to hit the right kind of weather now in summer, you can imagine how hard it will be in the rest of the seasons. And from January to April, there is basically nothing. And that's a very scary part of the year for me in my business. And I think it's quite common where things are very low and yeah, you just don't know what to do and if you can survive. So ideally, you will be doing so well the rest of the year that it will kind of cover that period as well. But I haven't really been able to do that well just yet. But with all that being said, June, when I actively started this market, I did start at the end of May, but I did have a lot of markets. In June, I also had other unrelated markets. So yeah, June was very markets packed. And it's been the first month this year where I made kind of a livable income. Again, very modest but livable-ish. There's a lot more to be desired, but we are working on it. So now for the first time this year, I feel like I've had a bit of hope. I've seen a tiny spark at the end of the tunnel that maybe I can survive for another, I don't know how long. So I've generally felt better. And of course, it also helps that it's summer. I haven't had a lot of time to go spend in nature, which I usually like to do this time of year, but it is what it is. I have kind of settled in this routine where I work very actively Friday to Sunday with markets, and then the rest of the week I'm at home doing different kind of administrative things, restocking, ordering whatever I need, finding what I need for my market setup. I had to buy a bigger table because I needed more space. It definitely helps having more space. I needed to reorder products. I have decided and bought a bike trailer so that I can go to the market by bike and save on metro expenses, which pile up quite quickly. And actually the whole last week was dedicated to that. I was thinking to make a video and it would have been interesting for me to document for my future self, I guess, to see how that was. But I just didn't have time. It would have taken me, everything would have taken me a lot longer if I was to also be like documenting it with finding the trailer, buying it, dragging it home in a huge box, building it all by myself, going, testing it. On the third day I used it, I got a flat tire, so I had to fix that. Yeah, lots of adventures, but things are progressing and that's good, that's important. So that's where we are right now, living the market life. Something that I want to focus on next is finally making and creating. It's something that I've been avoiding for the past half a year or something, because when I'm not doing well financially, first of all, I don't have the peace of mind that I need in order to focus on creating new things. And for the other, I feel guilty for doing what it feels like frivolous nonsense while I should be focusing on finding a job or just like making an income somehow. And now, since I started this market, I have kind of dropped the job search because, well, this solution kind of works while the search for jobs have never really worked. So it feels very pointless, and it really, really affects me really bad mentally. So I've let myself off the hook for now. It's really hard for me to put so much effort in something that has never worked for me. But at the same time, if it feels like if you don't do it, then nothing will happen anyway. It's like, yeah, you're just stuck in this awful, stucky place. I've never got a job from regular job search, sending applications and such. It was always through some kind of other random means. But again, it's not the kind of circumstances that you can replicate. And when you're in a desperate place, what can you do? Anyway, so as I was saying, now that I feel like I have a tiny little bit more stability than a few months ago, I would like to get back into creating. I have so many projects that I want to make, and now I have also the space to be selling them, because selling online kind of feels like a waste right now. It doesn't feel like it's working at the moment. I don't know, maybe it's working for other people. Let me know if it's working for you, if you are someone who sells online. But yeah, at the end of last year, actually, when I did my yearly overview of what was going on in my business, I noticed that my biggest source of income last year was markets. So I definitely wanted to focus more on markets, and now I have that opportunity, and it has been making a difference for sure. I feel like at the beginning of this year, I did want to take things a bit more offline and to be a bit more in the real world and to reconnect with real people again, because since COVID, I kind of never really went back to normal life again. And that was mostly a personal choice because I felt better that way. I enjoyed that, and I still enjoy a lot of it. I am very happy in my own company. I'm very content by myself, but I also understand that connection with other people is important and it can affect you in certain ways. And this year, finally, I wanted to challenge myself to balance things a little bit. It doesn't mean that I now have to spend every moment socializing and being like a sudden social butterfly, but also I don't want to be a total recluse. I want to return to more of a healthy place, and I think I've managed to do that so far. I think being at this market definitely fulfills quite a lot of social needs if I have those. But I mean, I do enjoy them. I look forward to the markets every week. And when we get to Friday, I don't know, it feels good. I really genuinely enjoy it right now. I don't know how long that would last, but right now I love it. And the whole week I'm obsessively checking the weather and hoping that it will look good. And it feels like very often at the start of the week, the weekend looks like it's going to be really, really good. And then the closer we get to the weekend, the more the forecast deteriorates and we end up with not the best of weather. But what can you do? Anyway, I think this ended up being way longer than I planned it to be. So I will see. Maybe it's going to be its own just update or something. Maybe it will be part of a bigger video. I don't know. That's for future me to decide. But yeah, hopefully in the next few weeks and months, the main focus will be keeping on with the markets and making new things. I want to include some original drawings to my goods for the market. I also want to work on some mini book things. Some time ago I made this little, it started like a zine, but it I think it ended up being like a bigger than a zine kind of thing about like my story of coming to Denmark and living in Denmark. And that sold out, so I kind of want to reissue it, but expand on it and improve it. So I would like to have some time to work on that. Also, there is a travel journal of an interrail trip that I took 2 years ago, maybe 3 at this point. No, it is 2 still, that I've been wanting to work on all this time, and I just never felt like I'm justified in putting time into it, and I really want to get into it because I like these little kind of mini book projects or whatever, illustrated, I don't know, things. Yeah, I hope I get the time for it in between accounting and packaging and other things, because they always feel like the last priority and they're always pushed to the side. And I was going to work on originals in particular this week, and it's already Wednesday and I haven't had time for it. But yeah, that's where we are right now. And if this ended up being its own video, then thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with more going on. I hope a more interesting one. But yeah, thanks for being here, and hope to see you next time. And until then, have fun.